Trump's tariff deadline, secure deals, or face higher rates. Who's in out? A global trade deadline looms. Who's in and who's out? In a move that's set to shake the foundations of global trade, the Trump administration is poised to impose higher tariff rates on countries that haven't secured a deal by August 1st. This drastic measure has been delayed twice already, with the initial deadline of April 2nd pushed back to July 9th, and now, finally, to August 1st. Back in April, President Trump boasted of having struck over 200 deals, while his trade advisor, Peter Navarro, claimed that 90 deals in 90 days were possible. However, the reality is far from it, with only 8 deals secured in 120 days, including one with the 27-member European Union. So where do things stand in global trade? The UK leads the charge. The United Kingdom was the first to secure a trade agreement with the US, striking a deal as early as May. The framework includes a 10% baseline tariff on UK goods. However, despite a recent meeting between President Trump and Prime Minister Keir Starmer in Scotland, some points in their trade agreement remain uncertain, including tariffs on UK steel and aluminum. Vietnam, a deal with a twist. Vietnam was the second country to cross the line, with President Trump announcing a trade agreement on July 2nd that saw the tariff imposed on Vietnam slashed from 46% to 20%. However, the deal includes a 40% transshipping tariff on goods originating in another country and transferred to Vietnam for final shipment to the U.S. This move is aimed at curbing Chinese manufacturers' attempts to sidestep hefty tariffs on direct shipments to the U.S. by using Vietnam as a transshipment hub. Indonesia, breaking down barriers. Indonesia's tariff rate was cut to 19% from 32% in its agreement with President Trump announced on July 15th. The deal also includes the elimination of tariff barriers on over 99% of U.S. products exported to Indonesia across all sectors, including agricultural products and energy. The Philippines, a marginal decrease. Unlike its ASEAN counterparts, the Philippines saw a marginal decrease in its tariff duties, with a decrease of a single percentage point to 19% from 20% on July 22nd. However, Manila will not impose tariffs on U.S. goods as part of the agreement, and President Trump praised the country for going open market with the U.S. Japan, a massive deal. Japan was the second major Asian economy to come to an agreement with the U.S., seeing its tariff rate cut to 15% from 25% on July 23rd. The deal also includes a lower preferential tariff rate for Japan's key automobile sector, with President Trump calling it perhaps the largest deal ever made. The European Union, a deal with some discontent. The European Union's agreement with the U.S. was struck just days ago, after long negotiations. EU goods are now facing a 15% baseline tariff rate, half the 30% President Trump had previously threatened the bloc with. However, the deal has been met with criticism, including from some European leaders who view it as an act of submission. South Korea, the latest to join. South Korea is the latest country to reach an agreement, with the terms being somewhat similar to the one Japan received. The country will see a blanket 15% tariff on its exports, while duties on its auto sector are also lowered to 15%. China. Talks still ongoing. The Trump administration's trade talks with China have taken a different tack than the rest of the world. Rather than a deal, China has reached a series of suspensions over its reciprocal tariff rate. The country's most recent meeting in Stockholm ended without a truce extension. But U.S. Treasury Secretary said that any truce extension will not be agreed to until President Trump signs off on the plan. Countries without a deal. What's next? For countries without a deal, it appears that a higher global baseline tariff of about 15 to 20% will be slapped on them, according to President Trump. Countries with a trade surplus with the U.S. will most likely see a higher reciprocal tariff rate. India, Canada, Mexico, and Australia are among the key trading partners that have not agreed to a deal with the U.S. India is facing a 25% tariff, with an additional unspecified penalty for what President Trump views as unfair trade policies. Canada is facing 35% tariffs on various goods from August 1st, while Mexico is set to be hit with a 30% tariff. Australia currently faces the baseline 10% tariff, but could be facing a higher rate if President Trump decides to raise his baseline rate to 15 to 20%. As the deadline looms, one thing is clear. The global trade landscape is about to change dramatically. But will these deals be enough to offset the economic uncertainty that's been plaguing the world? Only time will tell. What do you think? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Trump's tariff deadline chaos. Last-minute deals, global impact explained. Trump's tariff promises are falling short of expectations. Despite claiming to secure 90 deals in 90 days, the U.S. has only finalized 8 such agreements in 120 days. This leaves many countries in a state of uncertainty, with negotiations still ongoing for some. Vietnam came close to securing a deal after the UK, but the 40% transshipment tariff on goods from China remains unclear. Indonesia managed to reduce its tariff from 32% to 15%, but critics argue that swapping this for eliminating tariffs on 99% of U.S. goods doesn't benefit either side. The Philippines agreement includes military cooperation, but specifics remain vague. Japan's 15% tariff on automobiles is welcomed by its auto industry. Yet questions linger about its $550 billion investment commitment. South Korea's $350 billion pledge to the U.S. is hailed as a success, though its focus on shipbuilding and chip manufacturing raises questions about fairness. India, meanwhile, faces a 25% tariff, complicating its bid to become a manufacturing hub for companies like Apple. The situation is further complicated by legal challenges, with courts questioning the legality of Trump's tariffs under existing laws. As the deadline approaches, the U.S. faces a critical juncture where economic consequences and political strategy collide. But here's where it gets controversial. Is Trump's approach truly beneficial for global trade? Or is it more about geopolitical leverage? And this is the part most people miss. The long-term impact of these tariffs on global markets and bilateral relationships. What do you think? Are these deals fair, or are they just another tool in Trump's playbook?